Geralt doesn't really believe in like destiny, but he also kind of respects it at the same time and says it's, you know, he doesn't want to mess with it or anything. Hello everyone, welcome to the 27th episode of the Audiobook Club podcast. I'm Jonathan and I'll be hosting today's episode, and as always I'm joined by Michael, Stephen and Jason. So in this episode we're going to be covering The Last Wish, written by Andrzej Sapkowski and read by Peter Kenny. Just a quick summary of what this book's about. The Last Witch, there we go, The Last Witch again. I'll go count how many times I say The Last Witch in this. The Last Wish is a dark fantasy book and is chronologically the first book in the Witcher series, though it wasn't written first. It's a collection of interlinked stories that detail the life of a Witcher called Geralt of Rivia. So a Witcher is someone who's undergone a series of intense trials and mutations to make them capable of fighting monsters. So in this book, each chapter alternates between a story from Geralt's past and his present stay at the Temple of Militelli, I think, if I'm saying that right. So that's just a quick high-level summary. Why did I choose this book? So I was first introduced to The Witcher through the third installment of the Witcher game series. It became one of my favourite games of all time, mostly due to the engaging story and the depth of the characters. Just absolutely loved playing it, and I'm actually replaying it now because of this, and I think this is maybe my third or fourth playthrough, and I only picked it up maybe about five years ago. So, and also, I mean, what's not to love about a highly skilled sword bearing main character going around battling monsters? You know, it's definitely, I think, up all our streets. So I'll bring it over to you guys and ask what did you know about this book beforehand? Like, what have you heard about the maybe the Witcher lore in general? So we'll go maybe to you first, Michael.
Yeah, I think I said on the last episode that I think I have read one of the books in this series a long time ago. I think it was the first like actual novel, not one of the collections. The Sword of Destiny, is that the first book? I think I did read that at one stage, but it would have been a long time ago, and I can't really remember much about it, to be honest. I watched the show. That stuck in my memory a lot more because that would have been a lot more recent. So I had heard about this series, and hadn't really, apart from that one book a long time ago, hadn't really explored it that deeply. But I quite enjoyed the show, even though I know some hardcore Witcher fans don't love some changes the show made or some directions it went in. I've never played the games, but I've always been interested in them.
Cool, yeah, the games are definitely worth getting, and I think nowadays, especially you have a PS5, you can probably get it for like a tenner in like CX or something like that. So
I actually have the game, but I just haven't. Well, I have The Witcher 3, but I just haven't played it.
It is an investment of time, to be fair.
Yeah,
there's a lot of side stuff to do.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll go to you next, Stephen.
Yeah, I've definitely read Sword of Destiny and Blood of Elves, and I think the third book, I can't remember what it's called, but I think at least part of that one anyway. I remember it was when during COVID, the very start, I started reading those. I've got like images of walking the dog during COVID, like listening to the audiobooks. I think the show might have come out around that time as well, which probably prompted me to pick up the books, but I'm not certain on that. Yeah, I watched the show. I have the 3 games. Is there only 3? I've got 3 of them.
There's only 3. There's 3.
And I've only played the first one for about half an hour, and it was really janky, and I didn't want to play anymore. The controls were a bit really weird, or the combat was weird or something.
It's like a timing thing, isn't it? I think that one. It's like you have to like press buttons and time. I would skip at least the first one anyway. I think the second one's probably alright, but I don't know.
Yeah, I probably will at some point go back to them, but it was something to do with either the controls or just the combat or a mixture of the two. It was really janky, so I didn't keep it up. But I mean, the like, you know, setting and the story really grabs me. It's the kind of stories that I like best. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, cool. Jason?
yeah, much as these two, really. Like, my general experience of The Witcher, I think I did play the game first. I think probably you or Calvin, someone was just raving mad about The Witcher 3. And I want to say like I did like all of the first area, but that was about as far as I got. And then I watched, I think it was the first 2 seasons of the TV show as well when that came out. And I'm sure we'll get into it later, but like pretty much the same story. I think there's maybe, as Michael said, a few changes between this book and the first season. I would say the book is probably a lot less confusing than the first season was, but
yeah, that was. Yeah, I remember that being a big thing. I remember that being a big thing when that came out. Everybody was really confused.
It's because different timelines, and it's not
the book
really
makes it very clear.
Yeah,
why it's like that. Yeah,
that was a bit annoying.
Yeah, I think the TV show obviously interlinks 3 stories together, like Geralt's, Yennefer's, and Ciri's, whereas this book is really only about. I know Yennefer does appear, but in some of the past stories, but it's really just from Geralt's perspective, all these stories. And the TV show obviously
the stories are on different timelines too, I think, is what makes it confusing.
Yeah, like
they're not
the stories in this book
concurrently.
Yeah, exactly. Like the stories in this book too are clear that it's like, because obviously you have those voice of reason chapters that's like the present, and it's clear that he's like having a flashback, not a flashback, but like he's telling a story from his past. So it's yeah.
It did confuse me a bit though. Like until I realised that that's what was happening. I think it was the first chapter. He gets called. Somebody calls him the Butcher of Blaviken. I was like, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So when that chapter started and I knew it was coming, I was like, hold on, what's going on here?
Yeah, whereas the TV show, the first episode is where he gets the name the Butcher of Blaviken. So in terms of Geralt's timeline in the TV show, it's in order. So it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
And like I've always been confused about like the chronology of these books, like because I saw The Last Wish and the other short story collection. I can't remember the name of that one, but I'm always like, how do these fit into the series, and when am I supposed to read them? And that's never been clear to me, but I understand it a bit more now.
Apparently, Sword of Destiny is the other collection.
Is there not 2 collections, or do they make it up? Like 2 other ones?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. There's the
Sword of
Last
Destiny.
Sword of Destiny. So that means I've read Blood of Elves, Time of Content, and Baptism of Fire, not
maybe it was Blood of Elves I read too, because it was definitely a novel that I read.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess we'll go into a high level review first, just kind of your general feelings of the book before we dive deep into it. I guess I'll give mine first. Like I said, I knew I'd never read this book before, but I knew that I'd love the Witcher kind of story from the games, and obviously chose this book because of that. And yeah, I think I was absolutely correct with my choice. I absolutely loved the book. I found it quite easy to listen to. In terms of the narration, I wouldn't say the narrator was anything special or anything like that, but he had an okay voice. It was grand to listen to. I found the stories easy to follow along. I liked that they were like different separate stories, even though like the chronological order of them might have been mixed up. I feel like if you're sitting around telling stories, you might not necessarily tell them in the right order. But yeah, I liked that each kind of story was its own unit, and then you have this this modern day, like he is telling as a little story. You can just kind of picture it, like, I know he's lying like in a hospital bed or whatever. He's getting treated for his injuries, is why he's like sitting telling these stories. Yeah, I kind of like the way the book was set up in terms of the actual stories themselves. Once we get onto them, really enjoyed all of them. There's one in particular, it's actually the first one that I really, really enjoyed. But yeah, overall, I love this book. So again, we'll just keep the same order. Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed this book overall, definitely. It hits a lot of the right notes for me. I'm a big horror fan, a lot of horror in this book. I'm a big folklore and fairy tale. I've been reading so much like Irish folklore recently, and this is more obviously Polish folklore and fairy tales, but I really, really enjoy that aspect of the book as well. And obviously I like fantasy books. I like short stories. So it hits a lot of notes for me. I really, really like the setting and the world within The Witcher. I like how it's not the traditional Tolkien medieval England kind of slant / Norse inspired world. It does something a bit different than we see a lot of the imitators of Tolkien that just kind of lifted his world building. This goes more off those fairy tales and folklore for its world building, so it's got a unique edge because it's more Eastern European, and I like that. It felt fresh to me for a fantasy book compared to a lot that I've read, so I like that aspect. And I did enjoy the short story format, the way it was broken up into that framing story with Geralt on the bed and recovering, and then kind of reminiscing about all these stories. The stories themselves, there was some that I would say felt really strong love, and then there's one story that I don't think I really liked, but overall it was a good experience for me, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'd echo a lot of things Michael said. Like, I really like folklore and fairy tales and the same sort of setting. Don't really care for the horror too much, but it's fine. And I'm going to have to disagree with you, Johnny. I think the narrator was amazing. I think Peter Kenny did a great job. And he really sucked me into it. Like, I think I say on every other episode that, like, narration really, makes a book for me, or an audiobook. And I think his range was just like amazing. Like, he could do all sorts of the voice spectrum. So yeah, it really pulled me into it. The stories, I think there was a bit of everything in this. There was like romance, there was drama, there was like heartbreak, but everything in every each of the stories. So it was a nice like mixed bag of different stuff, but all tied together. So really liked it.
Yeah, I think I was just I liked a lot of his voice acting and stuff, but there's some things I didn't like as well, which brought down. I think the voice of Geralt was a bit different than what I'm used to. Like, in the game and in the show, it's this very hardened voice, like the Witchers are supposed to be like have no feelings or whatever. So it's like, whereas in that it felt more, intellectual or something like that. It just felt different. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it took me a while to get used to it. And I also think it calls Dandelion Dandelion for like a while, which annoyed me. Like,
I think it's one of the books. It must be the third one. He starts calling him Dandelion.
He's calling. I'm reading the second one, the Sword of Destiny or whatever he calls it, and he calls him Dandelion in that.
That is his name, but for some reason he calls him Dandelion.
Yeah, every time he said it annoyed me. Like.
He must have got told at some point, because it must be the last book that I read. He starts calling him Dandelion, and I thought it was really like jarring to go from one to the other. And then the show called him Yaskir. So
just before you go on to Jason too, I want to say as well, because I didn't touch on the narrator, I actually thought he did a really good job as well. I thought he was really strong voice actor. His range of voices and his performance that he brought to all the characters really evocative. I actually read the physical version of this book and listened to the audiobook. I said I might do this from now on, just so I have a more understanding of what the narrator is bringing to the story. And I agree with Stephen. I thought the narrator brought a lot to this story.
Yeah.
Cool. Jason?
Yeah, I was actually a bit surprised to hear you say you didn't like the narration, because I thought this is one of the strongest narrators we've had.
Hold on a minute. Let's just put... I didn't say I don't like him.
Johnny hated the narrator.
I said he was okay. Okay.
Johnny hated narrator.
The intro clip.
Michael's bald.
Mike.
Continue. Listeners.
Right. So as Johnny was saying, he hated the narrator. I was. Well, I don't know. I actually think this is one of the best narrators we've had in our time in the podcast. I agree with that, yeah. If not my favourite narrator of the time you've been on this podcast.
It was Stephen Fry, wasn't
it? Still traumatised from Hitchhikers. We have to bring it up in every single podcast we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the traditional novel that we're used to, but I suppose we have had books in this podcast where it has been just various different stories. I felt that some were definitely stronger than others. I don't want to go into that too much detail right now because I don't want to spoil anything. But overall, I had a really good experience with this book. I think it was a strong pick.
Nice one. Yeah, cool. So seems like we have a lot of good positive kind of reviews at the minute, but we're gonna dive deeper now and go into the main review. So the way that I have decided to structure this is so obviously we have every chapter will have a voice of reason, and then we have a story from the past, and then it just repeats like that. Rather than doing it in that way, I'd rather just talk about the voice of reason stuff at the very end and just go for each of the main stories first, and then we can come back and go through the voice of reason. So the first story is titled The Witcher. So this is the label of the chapters is like part of the voice of reason and the actual story, then the past story itself. So the Witcher is a story where we're kind of first introduced to Geralt, and he basically is hired by the king of Temeria called King Foltest to lift a curse from his daughter, Princess Ada, who was born as a monstrous Striga. So I think to break the curse, basically Geralt has to spend a night in an abandoned castle that used to be where the king actually lived. He has to spend the night in there and fend off against the Striga. So he has to do that all night until the morning comes and cock crows 3 times, in which the curse will be lifted. And again, I think it's emphasized a lot that this is like the theory behind the curse. Like they don't actually know if this is going to work or not, which I think adds to the like Geralt is this monster expert, but even some of these like creatures that he's coming up against are like new to him, or he hasn't like dealt with this specific scenario before. So I think like this is a nice kind of story to start with, because we know, I guess all of us knew coming into this, that's what a Witcher is a monster hunter who's going around killing monsters. But in this story, he's actually trying to lift the curse and save the monster. So just as I mentioned, the monster at the minute is the Striga. So the Striga is basically this like deformed, like, so the child is like, I think it's like stillborn or something like that, and the mother dies at childbirth as well, and the king buries them in a crypt, and then for 7 years the child like grows still inside the mother, and turns into this deformed thing with like big gangly arms and like claws and stuff. And then after the 7 years, it comes out of the tomb then at night and like hunts people. So yeah, what's were your thoughts on this story first? So I'll go to myself last. So we'll start with Michael.
Yeah, I thought out of is it 5 stories? It's the 5 stories in the Freeman stories makes it 6. Is that correct, Jonathan?
6, yeah.
I think it's 6, and the voice of reason is 7.
Out of the stories, I would say this would rank probably at the lower end for me. Not that it was a bad story. I think it was quite a decent story. Just that there wasn't much going on in terms of like the intrigue of character or relationship that some of the other chapters had, or there wasn't as much tension for me in this story as there was in some others that we'll get to. I thought this was a pretty straightforward story, which is probably why it's good to have it at the start, because it is just this go get the monster story. Here it was just him getting the job and then him going and carrying out the job. There wasn't many twists or turns that there was in some of the other stories. We had the discussion with the king, wasn't it? And he kind of flip-flops between whether he wants Geralt to, what he wants to do. He wants him to break the curse, or I'll have to, I won't pay you and everything, or well, I'll execute you or something like that at first, and then he softens on it and he's like, if you have to kill her, I understand basically, but you won't get paid. Kind of flip-flops between that. So I didn't find that like that dialogue that compelling or anything. It was pretty straightforward. Here's the mission. It almost reminded me of a game, which a game's kind of dialogue. It was a wee bit stilted and there wasn't much conflict within the dialogue or anything. So, but I still enjoyed it. I still liked the bits with the Striga. It was a creepy idea and a creepy bit of folklore in there, and the whole method of being locked in the tomb, I found that fascinating as well. So overall, I did think it was still a good story, but I definitely would put it on the weaker end.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, I actually would put this as one of my favorite stories. I think maybe because
Oh, really?
because it is quite like freaky and stuff, and I think again I'm maybe drawing it, or what I picture in my head is like from the show as well. I thought this episode in the show was done very well and is quite like almost scary. But yeah, I'll come back to more of my thoughts. We'll go to Stephen next.
Yeah, I like this story. It was probably middle of the road for me though, of the 7 or 6 or whatever it is. I think it was the grimmest of the stories though. It was like, the setup was pretty grim. The conflict was, a bit gruesome. But yeah, I liked it. I think I agree with a lot of things Michael said. The king flip-flopping was a bit annoying. Where he comes in and he's like, "Oh, I'm not the king." That whole thing where he's like dressed up as a guard or something. And it was kind of like, did that need to be a thing? Could he not have just went to the tomb and fought the monster? But whatever. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. Middle of the road.
Yeah, cool. Jason?
I thought it was a good start to the story. As Michael sort of put it, like, it's not maybe the most, like, there's maybe not as much just conflict. This is purely more just like action, but I felt that was quite an exciting way to start the story off. I did find it sort of portrayed like the terror of the fight quite well. Yeah, the Striga sounds absolutely terrifying, and I think it gave us like just a good introduction as well into Geralt's abilities as the Witcher. He's thrown off plenty of gang signs, and he's sort of starting off strong with how badass is in terms of fighting these monsters and everything.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there that I haven't mentioned yet about the signs. So, like, again, just to explain that, like, Witchers have some kind of minor form of magic power, and in the Witcher lore or the world, there's like sorcerers and sorceresses who are actually like proper powerful with magic, but like Witchers have this basic level. So I think like whenever the story starts, Geralt goes into like a tavern and he ends up fighting with guys who like provoke him, I think because he's from Rivia or something, and they basically say everyone from Rivia is like steals and stuff, and then generally people don't actually like Witchers. But yeah, basically he kills them, and then the guards come, and then he's like, he knows about this contract for this girl, so he like, take me to your to whoever's like offering the money for this contract. And he uses the Axie sign, which is like a mind control, kind of like anyone that has like a lesser mind, he can like kind of influence them to do what he says. So like the signs are quite interesting actually, because there's in the game, like for example, there's the 5 basic signs, but I've actually just been looking there's like 26 I think in total signs, but it depends on like the Witcher school and stuff like that. So I'm hoping they like hear about more of them in maybe future books, but I don't think they like go into them too much in this book. But yeah, an interesting point about the signs they bring up. For me, I think I really like this chapter because like it starts off with the point of what I think this book is really about. He's a monster hunter, but I think, and it probably even name drops this at some point or says this exactly, but it's like, he has to decide who the real, like what makes someone or something a monster. In this case, he's like decided that this girl, even though she's going to try and kill him, the Striga, she is a human underneath. And if he can break the curse, he can turn her back and free her from this curse. And because of that, he doesn't consider her a monster, and so he won't try to kill her. So that's why he's going to try his best to free her from the curse. I think he does say, like, obviously, if he has to, he will kill her, which is fair enough, which is why I think the king ultimately agrees with Geralt about if he has to kill him, kill her.
I think that, as you sort of said, there is something this book does well, and I think it might be just the next chapter actually, but I think I'm skipping ahead a wee bit, but I think the next chapter probably does that even better again for me.
Yeah,
but I think it's just a very strong aspect of the book, definitely, that not all things that appear evil are evil, and vice versa.
Yeah, and like I said there, at the start, he comes into that tavern and the boys provoke him, looking for a fight or whatever against him, and he kills them without even a thought. But then when it comes to this girl, he's like willing to try and save her. Like I think that contrast is quite good, like, because those men are obviously not good men, so he doesn't care. He doesn't actually care or have any feeling towards people that are bad. Like, he will just kill them. Whereas people that are good, like, he'll try and save or whatever.
I think it's part of this opening chapter was to set him up as like an anti-hero, because he does that with the guys in the tavern, and then he also uses the guy as bait for the Striga, the person who wants him to kill the girl, and he uses him as bait. So he's a hero, but he's not the conventional type. Yeah,
that's a good point. I think that guy actually, I can't remember his name, but he offers Geralt like 1,000 orens or whatever the currency is to just leave, because I think there's like a plot if because this is the daughter of the king. If she keeps killing, the king's going to get dethroned and someone else will come in. So I think they want the Striga to remain alive. But yeah, the anti-hero, the word anti-hero is good. Yeah, exactly. So that's why Geralt again doesn't hesitate. He like ties him up and uses him as bait. Which I think it was because that was like the introduction to the Striga. It was like, I think that was like a really good line was, you know, whenever they're sitting there and Geralt, because he's got like Witchers have like heightened senses, he hears, you know, the stone or slab that covers the sarcophagus, he hears it opening. So he knows the Striga's active, and that's when I like, you know, lets the guy go. But the guy doesn't hear it. He's just like running for his life now. And I actually like the way the show does it better, to be fair. Like in the show, I think that guy, like, there's this whole like love affair or something like that. So the king basically had incest of his sister. That's how this whole thing came about. But that guy basically loved the sister, so he wants to punish the king he's the one that actually puts the curse. So Geralt brings him in, but Geralt doesn't actually know how they lift the curse yet at that stage, and then he only kind of finds out while they're sitting in there waiting to go, because the boy tells him what the curse was. So the show actually made it a bit more urgent, because Geralt wasn't actually ready for this big long fight that was going to take all night. So it was even more urgent in the show, which I thought was quite well done. But I still really enjoyed the way it was done here too.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that, and I was like, am I going to, is that blasphemy for me to say, because of how the show was regarded, for me to say I actually enjoyed this, the way this was depicted more on the show than on the page? Just this particular story, not the whole book, but I actually thought it was stronger in the show, this, especially like conveying that theme you guys are talking about of like, who's the real monsters. I thought that came across better in that episode.
I like the show. I don't think it's bad, but that's a story. That's a topic for later.
Yeah,
it's for our other show podcast.
Can you imagine if you were fighting a Striga, right, and you were absolutely shitting yourself, and you had to hide in it, like in the crypt or in the tomb or whatever for like overnight? How shit scared you would be?
Yeah,
because if that thing gets in, that's game over.
Yeah,
tighten you there.
Yeah, so I think like it ends. So that chapter ends basically where Geralt gets in the tomb and like closes it, and he casts another sign. I think is a Quen is the one that's like a shield. So like the Striga basically can't break in, and he just basically has to hold that for the rest of the night. And then he comes out like when he kind of knows it's morning time, and he sees like a naked girl lying on the floor. And he goes over to be like, check, is she, you know, normal? Because there's this whole worry that is this girl, the king. I think the king is like really worried that, you know, she's always going to be a monster and she's never going to fully recover from this. I think Geralt like says that if she gets the right care and stuff, it's possible. But basically he goes over, and the transformation from the monster into the girl isn't quite complete yet. And she basically like still has claws, and she like slashes him in the neck, and then she like bites him to try and like feed on him or whatever, and then he bites her back or something. And I think I'm not actually sure what the biting is about on his part, but I think it's like to
dominance.
I like something like that. Like they kind of like, you know, basically say, no, here, I'll bite you if you bite me or whatever. But yeah, basically then I think he obviously, so she slashes him in like the jugular or whatever, so he's like bleeding out, and then he like he passes out. But like the last thing he hears is like the cock crowing. Which means that the transformation is now like complete, and she's she's like a normal girl now. And then, you know, he wakes up then and like where he's getting treated or whatever, and yeah, finds out she like wets the bed and stuff, and she's a bit like weird, but all in all she looks like she might be grand. And that's kind of where that story ends. So
I sort of got from the wet in the bed thing, does that sort of like mean that because she's been this monster for so long, she's not like developed her age as she was supposed to? Like, is that what that was sort of implying?
Yeah,
exactly.
I think they mentioned that. I think he mentioned that when he was talking to the king. He's like, she's not going to be like normal. Like, normal 10
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. She's
So
like
they
quite
sort of help,
developmentally
like.
behind, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty grim.
Just looking it up, apparently she appears in all 3 games. I'm wondering, like,
Well,
is the child, like, grown up in those or what?
The king appears in the games, like, I mean, so it's not like king.
Apparently she becomes the queen of Redania, so that's interesting.
But
About that.
I think a lot of these characters that are mentioned in this book do go on to play big parts. I suppose that's the whole point of this book, isn't it? So they give you like wee backstories and all these wee side characters appear.
Yeah. I think there's like a good bit in the show, you know, where Foltest, and it's like, you know, the way the show is like set where it's like goes back in time and stuff like this. So it's like you do that episode of the story with Astriga, and Foltest obviously like an adult king or whatever, but like it goes back then to like say like 30, 40 years earlier, and like they're at like that party at Queen Clumpy's, whatever the ceremony is, and like I think the mother like says to the 2 kids is like, Foltest, leave your sister alone, because he's like, you know, they're being very playful, but obviously, you know, that's the start of the relationship between them, which I thought was quite funny on the show.
I think that's where the confusion started happening with the show as well.
Yeah, but that I feel like that should clear up that what they're doing. Maybe I suppose the first time you watch it, you're like, what? Wait, hold on, what? Because it takes you a wee second.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to chapter 2. So this one is titled A Grain of Truth. So this is actually, this from the show, this actually happens in season 2. All the other stories are part of season 1 of the actual show, but this is the only one from season 2. But I quite like this story as well. So this is when Geralt's out travelling, he encounters a manor inhabited by a cursed man named Nivellen. So he's been transformed into some kind of beast, and he lives with a young woman named Farina. So she actually turns out to be a vampire, like a vampire creature called a Bruxa. So basically, Nivellen is like when you start, like Nivellen invites Geralt into his home once because he's used to like people running away from him because he's like got this, you know, monstrous beastish look. But Geralt's obviously very numb to monsters and all now, so he doesn't flinch or anything. And the boy invites him in for like some food or whatever, or they stay the night. And then I think Geralt then, like, they have like conversations over dinner and stuff like that, and then Geralt leaves the next day, but I think then while he's, you know, on his way that he's leaving, he realises that this guy, what the curse is on this monster, or this beast, and he realises it's to do with this vampire girl. So I think this guy Nivellen, while he tells Geralt about the stories, that he actually kind of likes, at first, like, he hated being the monster, but actually now there's people like bring their daughters and all, they stay with him. I think like these young girls are like fascinated by him being a beast or whatever. So he's actually like said that he's kind of grown to love the way he is. But then Geralt comes and, you know, kills the Bruxa, and Geralt actually fights the Bruxa, and then at 10 turns out Nivellen actually kills the Bruxa, and then that actually lifts the curse and turns Nivellen back to his human form. So that's basically a summary of that chapter. We'll go to Michael again first. What's your thoughts on this chapter?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this chapter. This is probably my second favourite of the selection. I just loved I think it was a bit sharper, the dialogue and everything, the exchange between Geralt and I was going to say the beast, but so what I was going to say too is I've heard this story is quite inspired by Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
That fairy tale. And
Even the character quite looks like the beast.
Yeah, and you can get a sense of that as well. But I thought I loved the atmosphere of this story too. It has kind of a gothic horror feel going on to the big spooky castle with the Lord on his own and everything. And I like the kind of it sets up this mystery with the dead bodies at the start of the young woman and the man, and the stuff with the Bruxa. It was again a cool monster fight, but it also had that emotional and tragic element that I think elevates it above stories like the previous one. So yeah, I thought this was a really good story. I really enjoyed this one.
Cool. Go to you, Stephen, next.
Yeah, I really like this chapter. Like Michael was saying, this is where I started realising that about the fairy tales. It's clearly Beauty and the Beast. Even the house that he lives in, he can control it by magic, which is like, you know, all the furniture and stuff, like in Beauty and the Beast. But then I started noticing it more throughout the other stories, so I might touch on that when we get to them. But for this one, yeah, I mean, again, this was sort of middle of the road of the stories for me, but still a good one. I like the, hearing about the guy's backstory and how he became, the monster and stuff. It's just, it's good.
Cool. And Jason?
First off, I'm just going to say I don't actually think I even picked up that these were all like fairy tale stories. I think it's interesting that the parents of the podcast picked that up. Maybe you did too, Johnny. Maybe I'm just thick, but I didn't even.
It's a good point.
Didn't even click that they were fairy tales until you started saying it. I thought it was a good chapter to say it. I think it's just one of those chapters that portrays this sort of, are we like, what is truly a monster? Is it how you look or is it how you act? I just thought it was very good at portraying it. I quite like the character of the villain. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Big Torment from Game of Thrones for all the people that watched the season 2. Overall, I thought it was one of the stronger stories. I do regret not officially ranking them beforehand, so I'm just going to say it was a strong story, one of the stronger stories.
Yeah, so I think as well, I agree. Again, Beauty and the Beast is definitely a good comparison here. I like the way it is done in this, where Geralt leaves. I think whenever he's talking to the villain about does he live alone, Geralt senses there's this. I think Geralt actually sees the girl beforehand, but then he kind of realizes that the villain, this girl must live here. He says that this is probably a Rizulka. I'm not actually sure what that is, but it's basically not anything to be too worried about. But I think I like the way Geralt leaves, and then I think he finds charred remains or something, and he realizes that she's a bit this, whatever she is a bit more sinister. And then when he goes back, she's basically just waiting on top of a fountain in the courtyard for him, because she's out in the day. I think he's able to guess exactly what kind of vampire thing she is. I think it doesn't happen really in the book, but I think in the show doesn't he lets her feed on him or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's he he does allow it, it's a mutual thing. But yeah, I think in this it's she is the reason for the curse or something like that. Her presence is causing the curse to stay on him, because obviously whenever they kill her, the curse is lifted. But I think I guess he probably just loves her or whatever. Is that what you got from the main reason that he doesn't want to kill her beforehand?
No, that's what I assumed anyway.
Yeah, I think he does. I think that's the sort of part of the spell. I think it's his love for her.
Yeah.
But ultimate, I think Geralt's fighting her, and then Geralt's in trouble, and then he stabs her. So obviously at some point his he changes, maybe he realizes what she is or something like that. Maybe he was blinded by love. I'm not sure what why then does he just change to go and stab her then?
Probably sees that she is actually monster, and then
Yeah, I think he doesn't want to, but he's kind of feels forced to at that stage.
Yeah.
I like what you said too, Jonathan, about how it built up the Bruxa. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
Bruxa.
Yeah, it makes me think of another thing. I think this collection of stories does really well. There's very little exposition or explaining of things like that, because it could easily become confusing because we're not familiar with Polish folklore or legends or anything. But it conveys that this is a bigger threat through Geralt's actions. So it doesn't need to take a big paragraph and say this is what a Bruxa is and everything. It conveys it through his actions. So I thought that was something the story did very well throughout. The world building is very subtle, and it never goes into big expository paragraphs that a less skillful writer would probably need to rely on. It just kind of delivers it very here and there, and the world is left mysterious in this collection of stories, which might be a bad thing for some people who are first reading this. They might want to know, I want to know more about the world, but I quite like the mystery surrounding it for me.
Yeah. So I've just kind of read a wee kind of analysis article on it. Basically, there's the whole drawn back to who the real monster is, and obviously there's this contrast that the villain is this beast looking thing and is a classical looking monster, whereas the girl she just looks like this pretty young girl, but it turns out she's the actual proper monster. But I think that too, there's a lot of confliction in what Geralt believes is a monster, because I think the villain's cursed originally because he like rapes some priestess because he's like pressured. He's like part of like a gang of thieves, and he's like pressured into like raping this girl, and then she like curses him and like kills herself. But even though I think it's because he tells Geralt about that. Geralt can tell that he's like sorry about it. He's like sincere. So Geralt deems that no, this man is not a monster. Like, but then he realizes that the girl who's using the villain, like she is like killing anyone that comes near the village, but using him as like protection or shelter. So he like deems that is monstrous behavior, which I just think is quite interesting. So the next one is called The Lesser Evil. I think this is the first episode in the show, and parallels between them are quite similar. So just a high level summary of it, like Geralt arrives in the town Blaviken. So a lot of the time, but Geralt's called the Butcher of Blaviken. So I feel like this chronologically is like the first story, just because he's always then referred to as the Butcher of Blaviken and like most of the other stories. But I could be wrong about that. There could be other stories where he hasn't been referred to that yet. But this is definitely one of the first chronologically. So in Blaviken, he gets caught between a battle between two sorcerers, so Stregobor and Renfrey. So Stregobor believes Renfrey is like cursed. I think there's this whole like he has this big theory about these children born at like this certain time of year or something like that, and they're all cursed, and they've basically been going around trying to wipe them all out because he believes that they're like a great danger to the world. And because he's been hunting Renfrey all her life, I think she at some point was a princess, but because he's like been hunting her down to try and kill her, it's like ruined her life. So she's like seeking vengeance against them. So Geralt gets caught in the middle of this feud, and both of them, try to, recruit Geralt to kill the other. And I think this is again where a lot of the things about Geralt saying like, he only kills monsters, and he can't really say that either of these people are monsters. So he avoids taken side, but basically then ends up I think like Renfrey, when she's trying to like recruit him to her side, seduces him or whatever, and then he like wakes up the next morning and she's like slipped off, and he realizes that she is going to start murdering people in the town to get Stregobor to come out of his enchanted tower, which she basically can't get into. So he's been locked up there, but she needs a way to get him out. And like the source, like every town has like a main sorcerer or whatever. So if she starts murdering people in the town, it's his like duty to come out and protect them or whatever. So Geralt comes in and kills her and all of her men. And even though he was trying to he's actually saved everyone in the town, they were unaware of what the plan was. So they see Geralt as a murderer, and that's where he gets the name, the Butcher of Blaviken. So yeah, the title, The Lesser Evil, is basically, that because it's Geralt's struggle, trying to choose what is the lesser evil, killing this girl who was obviously wronged her whole life and maybe deserves revenge, but to do so she is willing to kill innocent people, so he has to choose to kill her instead. But yeah, what's your thoughts on this one? Ian, Seymour, or Michael first?
Yeah, I enjoyed this story too. I probably would put it maybe even as my third favourite from the collection. I liked the character Renfrey a lot. I thought she was a really good character. I liked the bouncing between motivations between the two sorcerers, and Geralt's kind of quandary of which side does he choose. I thought that was probably strongest in this chapter, that conflict of what was the right thing to do and him trying to figure that out. There was a lot of twists and turns of different points and revelations of character motivations and everything, and then eventually we realized that Renfrey probably as the bigger evil. So Geralt, through her methods anyway of what she's trying to achieve, and Geralt takes the step to kill her and gets his nickname, the origins of that. Yeah, I thought it was a good story.
Cool. Go on to you, Stephen.
Yeah, I think I like all the stories, but I think this one is probably on the lower end, or the worst half of the last. I still don't like it. Some of the elements in it are probably up there with some of the best moments in the story, or the stories for me, I think. But yeah, it's probably on the lower end. This one, it took me a while because, as I said before, they're all sort of like, some of the stories are based on fairy tales. And this one I was like, after I realised about Beauty and the Beast, I was kind of like, are any of the other ones like that? And the next one I was kind of thinking where it could fit. And it was when they talk about, it was Renfrey's backstory. They talk about how she was a princess whose stepmother like booted her out, and a huntsman chased after her, and I was like, alright, so she's Snow White then. But like brutal Snow White. And I really like that. And then she's got like a band of like dwarves basically with her that kind of do her dirty way. I thought it was quite funny. The actual story, there's too much back and forth for me. I think there's like jumping between the two sides, having gone to Stregobor and Renfrey and whatever. And I didn't like the sort of indecision that was going on. It was a bit annoying for me, but I still liked it.
Yeah, cool. Jason?
Stregobor's a fucking bastard.
A wild bastard, eh?
Don't like him. Don't like him in the show. Don't like him in the book. No, we're not supposed to like him. It was a good chapter. I mean, I don't think that from memory anyways, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any particularly bad chapters. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll find out when we talk through them again. But I think it probably was in the weaker end of things for me. Although I did enjoy the sort of the aspect of this lesser evil. Because, I mean, I know probably from watching the show and playing the games that Geralt tries to not get too involved in, like, disputes. And, like, that sort of whole thing about Stregobor asking him to kill Renfrey for, like, you know, choose the lesser evil, sort of. I like that he initially declined that. Sort of said, I don't believe in this lesser evil, evil's evil. But then he sort of had to go back on his actions after what was happening in Blaviken. And he had the sort of side of the lesser evil after all, even though the lesser evil still fairly evil, but still quite not maybe butchering a whole village level of evil. So still a good chapter, but I don't know. I did find it maybe slightly on the slower end, slightly on the weaker end, but overall enjoyed it.
Yeah, so like the whole thing with him killing, I think whenever he kills Renfrey, he's like appalled. Then he like, I think Stregobor basically wants to like do an autopsy because he's like, he thinks she's got this like mad mutations within her or whatever, so he wants to like, dig around and see what's going on in there. And Geralt's like draws a sword against Stregobor and is like, don't be touching her or whatever. So I think Geralt's obviously been very conflicted in this decision to kill her, and after he's killed her, he's now having second thoughts and like, did he do the right thing or whatever? So even after he's made his decision, he is still conflicted by what he's done. And has he made the right choice? So I think the whole point of him killing her was because he heard a story of one of her men slaughtering a previous town. So there's nothing that actually proves that this is going to happen this time, but because he heard about that, he's assuming that's what is going to happen. So like whether or not she's actually going to start murdering people is in question. And whenever he confronts her, she basically says she's not going to do that. But yeah, he ends up fighting her anyway and killing her. But yeah, I think this one is kind of maybe to show that sometimes it's extremely difficult to determine what good and evil is, or who is the lesser evil or whatever, and who deserves to die and who doesn't. Obviously, I think from our perspective, like I think our general consensus that we would rather Stregobor was the one that was killed and Renfrey lived, because we feel like she was she had better reasons, or like she had a good reason to be after him, where his reasons seemed like bullshit. And like a lot of the times he was like saying that she killed his men and that's why she deserves to die. But it turns out then when Geralt talks to Renfrey that she killed his men because they like raped her or tried to poison her or something like that. Yeah, like it's kind of one of those ones where Geralt's made a mistake almost and kind of has to live with it. Yeah,
I think part of the reason I had a problem with it was why it was weaker for me is I think Geralt kind of just stumbles into everything in this story. He happens to be there when this thing's going on, and then he gets pulled into it, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to pick a side." And then he by chance hears that Renfrey's men have done this sort of thing before, so he's like, "Oh, fuck! Now I have to pick." I don't know. It was a bit shite. I don't know.
I think the next one is a pivotal chapter in the actual wider story of the whole Witcher. So this one is called...
I think it might be the most important of the stories.
Yeah. So this is called A Question of Price. So, as a quick summary, Geralt attends a banquet at the request of Queen Calanthe of Sintra. So, basically she's like involved in a politically charged situation. So there's, again, within this world, and we kind of get a hint of it here, and it's more prevalent in the games as well, like it's talked about, where there's like feuding states and stuff. So there's Sintra here, and there's what do you call the other boys?
Skellig.
No, Skellig's like a region.
What was it?
Nilfgaard. Yeah, so let me just cycle back. So yeah, like the political situations is kind of that Sintra and Nilfgaard are kind of feuding at the minute. I don't think they're quite at war yet at this stage, but we will get there in the future. Spoilers. But basically, Geralt's there to ensure the fulfillment of a law of surprise. So basically, Queen Calanthé's husband, who was killed, made a request, or was saved by this hero before he died. And whenever you can't pay someone or whatever, you invoke this law of surprise, which is basically like something that's, if you don't know you have, you will give it to the person. Which I think it's like, in the book kind of said they more or less always be a child or whatever, but I think in the show it kind of feels like it could be anything. You know, it's something you don't know you have yet. That, like it's like, say you went home then and you got like £1,000 or whatever, then that would be the thing you have to give to them. But it just felt to me like in this book that it was like, you know, it's always to do with an unborn child. But maybe we'll talk more about that in a minute. But basically, yeah, for saving the Queen's husband, who's, I think the husband is like, although I think his title as king, he's actually below her because she is the actual bloodline on the throne. So he's saved by this hero, and in return he offers this law of surprise, which basically says that a future child will be granted to him, which turns out to be Queen Calanthé's daughter, who is at this banquet, is basically trying, like, be given away, or like trying to find a suitor for her. And the hero shows up, and he's here to claim the princess because it's his right because of this law of surprise. So it turns out that so you call the daughter of Calanthe Princess Pavetta, she actually has magical powers, and they all basically they start feuding and fighting in this banquet, and she basically freaking loses the plot and starts this big, more or less a big hurricane within the banquet hall, and they have to kind of like, you know, subdue her. I think everyone's like trying to. I think what it's supposed to be is that Queen Calanthe wants Geralt to basically kill, because she knows that this guy might turn up, so she wants Geralt to kill this man when he shows up. Yeah. And then Geralt, again, this is go back to the theme of right and wrong. Geralt realised this is because of the law of surprise, that this guy, you know, is the rightful person to claim the princess as his, and actually then sides with him. So they end up like fighting together against, you know, her guard and stuff. But yeah, because they're trying to kill him, the princess loses the plot and creates this hurricane, and then it becomes trying to stop her from absolutely, you know, wiping out this freaking whole castle. And then the main important bit of this is that at the end of that, after, you know, everything's resolved, they want to reward Geralt, and he then claims the law of surprise. And like, this is where I was talking about that confusion with why it's always a child, because like in the book, Geralt is saying like the Witcher's numbers are dwindling, so I basically claim the law of surprise so we can have a future child for the witch for training up to be a Witcher in the future, which was a bit confusing to me. Like in the show, it's basically like he claims it, but it's just kind of like he claims it, but he's not really looking for a reward. He's just like, oh, I'll claim the law of surprise, don't worry about it. And then she's like, the Queen Calanthé's like, what the hell have you done? And then I think the Princess Pavetta is sick, you know, basically saying that she's pregnant. So Geralt has destiny, is now tied to this unborn child. So the unborn child turns out to be Ciri, who isn't really talked about otherwise in this, but if you have watched the show, you'll know that Ciri's like also got these magical powers, and it's turned out she's extremely powerful, and more or less everyone's after, you know, for extreme power. But now, because Geralt's claimed her as his, their destinies are like linked, which is another thing that's talked about a lot in The Witcher. Geralt doesn't really believe in like destiny, but he also kind of respects it at the same time and says it's, you know, he doesn't want to mess with it or anything. So yeah, he's kind of like, Geralt leaves then after this, and then they'll be reunited sometime in the future, but maybe that's another book we'll cover. But that was a lot, so go on to what your thoughts about this are. Michael again.
Yeah, at the beginning when I said there was one of the stories that I didn't like, this was the story that I was referring to.
I knew it.
I'm shocked.
I'm struggling to say why I didn't like it, but I think it's just, say in the dialogue too, there's a lot of like monologuing, which happens a lot in this book, but especially here, especially the guy who is like the creature that changes after midnight. It seems to talk in these huge paragraphs that go on, and I was just losing interest in him. And the law of surprise stuff just feels it's probably invoking something to do with folklore or paying tribute. Yeah, paying tribute to something, but it just feels very nonsensical to me, and I don't like it. It just doesn't feel satisfying to me. There's just something weird about it that doesn't sit right with me. Yeah, the story overall, and the hurricane, the powers, and everything that happens, it felt like there was no way to make the story turn into a disaster organically, so the story just became randomly crazy. And I just don't know. It just wasn't as satisfying for me as the other stories. I didn't really like it. Yeah, I can't think of more to say on it than that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I think maybe people like this story because of the significance of like Ciri and stuff. No, this is like where that happens.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to say as well. I forgot to say. Yeah, maybe that's why I don't like it. And maybe that's why it feels as weak to me, because it doesn't stand as well on its own. Because it is more connected to the overarching story. Maybe that's why it feels weaker to me, just on its lone context. If I was like a big fan of the series and had read all the main novels, and I knew what significance this was pointing towards, I might enjoy it more. But as a standalone story, I thought it was quite weak.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point. Like especially too, because like I don't think all that we know about Ciri or whatever, that's not revealed here. Obviously, the child has just been conceived or whatever, so there's no like mention of Ciri, so you wouldn't know what the significance of this is yet. You do, I think it gives you hints of like his destiny obviously being tied to the unborn child, so you know that it will play some part, but you don't realise how big of a part.
Yeah.
The other thing there is like, you know, again, this is like I forgot to mention about the hero he's like a monstrous looking person. Yeah, I think he has been cursed as well. And again, this is like another hedgehog man from he looks monstrous, but there's again the theory as to fix his curse is that he needs some kiss at midnight or something like that. That it's is not like another friggin' Cinderella or friggin' one of them.
Yeah.
Like the Princess and the Toad or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think there was too many of those things too. Like I think in a folk tale or a fairy tale, I'll let away with like one of those magical need a kiss or whatever. I just feel like this story was throwing those kind of things everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, it was kind of, you know what, maybe one of the comparisons is just bringing up Shrek, because, you know, isn't Shrek just like supposed to be like playing on all the different
yeah
fairy tales, but we'll maybe come back to that. Yeah, Jason, move on to you. Or Steve, who did I do there? Michael? It's Stephen.
Stephen.
Sorry, Stephen.
Yeah, I think this one's probably my favourite story. Maybe I like all the courtroom, or not courtroom, but the court sort of drama that goes on. You know, at the royal court. I don't know why. I'm drawn to that for some reason. But I like all the chatting, that all the fucking wee name drops that you hear here and there when she's chatting to like Geralt, or when you hear the other people talking. I like that Queen Calanthe knows ahead of time that this guy's probably going to turn up, and that she's in on it the whole time, and she's like set up this trap for him basically, and then it sort of blows up in her face. The magical powers thing, I was just thinking there as you were saying, Michael, and I think that might be because you have to remember this book was written after the first book, right? So yeah. I think it might have been like a call back or call forward, depending on which way you look at it, to like Ciri being magical, and it's a tie in there. Some, you know, she wanted to sort of like tie it back, this whole bloodline thing and all the rest of it. And then the law of surprise. Yeah, one thing that I didn't understand was, I know it's obviously set up for the rest of the series, right? That Geralt invokes the right of surprise at the end. But it's like, why? Because you went through this whole thing in this chapter, chapter about how witchers were all child surprises. That's like part of it or something.
Yeah.
Or that he was, and it's like, so you probably know that that's what's going to happen, you know. And you also say how, like, he talks about a few of these stories about how, like, witches are cursed and stuff, and basically gives off the impression that it's crap to be one. So, like, why would he make another one? You know, it's kind of weird, like. And he also, at the very end, he goes on, like, he doesn't even want to accept the child's surprise or the surprise, even though he knows that he has to by destiny, which is really weird, right? So I don't know. That's the only bit I had trouble with.
The only thing I could think that could explain that is, but it's not said in the text, but if I was just to make up something, it would be like that the Witchers have like a duty to ask for that, right, when they like are given like a royal favor or something.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good, I'm gonna take that as my headcanon. It's a curse. They're cursed to have to do it. Yeah, that's my headcanon there. As for the fairy tale bit and why the law of surprise is like a whole thing, it's Rumpelstiltskin is the fairy tale. It's even directly mentioned in this chapter at one point. That's how I caught on. Calanthe, they're talking about the law of surprise, and I can't remember what the guy's name is. It's the drunk guy who like makes the animal noises. Does anybody remember his name?
No.
That guy anyway, when he's monologuing about how like you have to respect the law of surprise, because remember, like, Lord
Mousek
of might be. He name drops. He says, "Remember Lord Rumpelstiltskin of such and such who didn't do it, and his whole family got cursed." And I was like, "Oh, it's fucking Rumpelstiltskin. Of course it is." So I think that's why it's mentioned so often. And obviously, it's like a setup for the rest of the story, which at the point of writing this book would have already come out. I think, at least the first book. So.
Yeah, I think there's a fairy tale in like must be in like Polish, Slavian like folk tale. It's called Hans My Hedgehog, and maybe this is like Rumpelstiltskin is like you know taken from that or vice versa or whatever. But yeah, it's like funny because that's the story that this is, and that's why he was a hedgehog looking man. So I've just been reading there about the politics of it. I said there that you know the husband died. He was the king, the actual king, like so he was higher than her, and. Yeah. This isn't shown in the show, I guess, because maybe of, you know, gender equality and all that kind of stuff these days. But she can't rule because she's a woman, basically. She can't come to full power. So, like, her whole thing here is to, like, try and get this perfect suitor. So she already knows the suitor she wants, even though she has to go through all the formalities of, like, looking like she's choosing from this, like, list of suitors. Yeah. But she knows the one that basically if she chooses, it more or less is her only chance of becoming like the true head of like Sintra and keep her power. But basically, obviously, yeah, that we did speak. This is why Geralt was essentially hired or invited to this wedding by her, because Geralt basically turns down the money or whatever because they have like an argument at the dinner table. Basically, Geralt's saying that he only kills monsters again, tying that monster element in, because she basically says she wants him to kill a person or something. I don't think she unveils who or whatever. I think she just have your sword ready or something like that. You'll kind of know what it is whenever it happens. Basically, yeah, she wants Geralt and Bliss to kill this guy whenever he does show up. But yeah, just to clear up the political stuff, because it's kind of confusing a wee bit.
The last thing I just want to say is that I like the whole like nods to Geralt's backstory about how he became a Witcher and how he was a child surprise. No, I think that adds something really big to it for me. Just like the illusion that there's more going on there, sort of thing. Yeah, I like that.
Jason, did you give your side yet?
No, I haven't been asked, no.
Okay, Jason.
We don't care about what you think.
Let's go to you now.
Oh, thank you for asking, Johnny. Very kind. I am going to agree with one of you. Pause for dramatic effect.
It's never me. It's not me. You never agrees with me.
No, it is you, Stephen. I thought this was the best chapter of the book.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really, really, really like the sort of whole law of surprise and just the general, like I sort of Stephen said, like the politics and the court drama and everything. I thought this was a standout chapter of the book for me. Maybe the TV show has had a bit of an influence on me because I could picture it, and like I could picture Hedgehog Man during it, and I sort of knew the story already, anyways. But I know I don't really have much more to add other than just that was for me the strongest chapter in the book.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that the show definitely influenced the way I thought about it too. It is quite similar to how it happens, although there are some differences obviously. But like I said about the Law of Surprise, for example, kind of feels like in the show it's almost like Geralt doesn't really realise how he's done this link in the destiny of this child, whereas in the book it's like it's almost like Geralt meant to do it. But because like in the book I think when Geralt says he wants rewarded from the hedgehog guy who's now like a normal guy after he transforms, Geralt like asks him, or he asks Geralt, well, what do you want as your reward? And Geralt says something that you have but you don't know it yet, and then he looks at Pavetta and just she's kind of like happy or whatever, just to imply that she is pregnant, so she knows she was pregnant. But in the show it's like she only be sick then as Geralt claims this, and like is only like she's only finding out she's pregnant as well. So it's kind of like it was like an accident in the show, which I kind of like more that it was an accident. I think it was funnier for one, but yeah, like I think the whole
that
thing with the curse is
so confusing on the show when that
Yeah,
like,
I know,
she
I know.
was just sick, and I was like, what was that about?
Yeah, what does that mean? I think it was definitely clearer in the book because obviously like you kind of get that.
Yeah,
It's easier implied what's going on here, like because Geralt kind of like insinuates. But yeah, overall I enjoyed that chapter as well. Again, like I said, I probably am a bit biased because of the show. The show's kind of influenced my decision here, but I don't think it was my favourite chapter, but I really enjoyed it still. So this one is an introduction to another major character. So it's another significant story, and it's basically the other destiny-bound character to Geralt. So this chapter is called The Edge of the World. So Geralt is accompanied by his friend Dandelion, or as this book says, Dandelion a lot, who is, so in the show he's actually called Jaskier, which is actually what he is called in Polish, so that's why he's called Jaskier in the show, whereas Dandelion was like the English translation, I guess, or maybe it was just like renamed in English. Not sure why that was, maybe I can look that up. But so this one is where they're hired to deal with what the local villagers believe to be a devil, or again this is another one where they call it like a diavol or something like that, but I actually think that's like an intentional one because it's like Geralt says devil but they say diavol, so I think it's just like intentionally like said like that, but I thought it was quite funny. But yeah, the so-called devil turns out to be like a Sylvian named Torque, I think it's his name, or Torque, or I'm not sure how you pronounced it.
I think you pronounced it Torquay.
Yeah, Torquay, something like that.
Torque.
So he's basically like this kind of half man, half goat kind of creature thing. And he is basically like stealing food and stuff from these people, from these villagers. And I think at first they're okay with it, but he's become a bit of a nuisance eventually. And why he's actually doing it, when Geralt goes to hunt him down or find out, like they just think it's this devil, they don't actually know what it is. But Geralt goes to like hunt him down and find him, and it turns out he's actually stealing to help a group of elves who are in hiding. So this is kind of your first look at like a non-human race, or like apart from the monsters and stuff like that, obviously, but like the other kind of major race is the elves, who like you find out in this one that the elves introduced the humans to magic, so they kind of like were the reason sorcerers and all became about. So in the magic system in The Witcher is called Chaos as well, which we'll talk maybe more about in like a future Witcher book or something like that, because it's not too much explored in this book. But yeah, so the elves like showed the humans that and stuff like that, and then since then the humans have done what humans do best and take out the elven race and wipe out another race that poses a threat to them, because they're elves are usually more intelligent or stronger or whatever, so the humans just start genocide on them. And this this chapter mainly then is focusing on the elves kind of giving their side of things, while after they basically capture Geralt and Dandelion, and Geralt's asking them and all what why they're in hiding and stuff like that, and like they're saying that their whole freaking race is being wiped out by the humans, and they want to kill Geralt and Jaskier because they're humans. And then obviously they find out Geralt's a witcher, but witchers are still considered on the side of humans by the elves. But Geralt's basically like, I the humans don't like him either, but he just like learns to live with them and stuff because it's just the way he survives. And he kind of tries to talk to them about, you just have to learn to survive with them and all. So you get a lot of dialogue in this chapter. But yeah, Michael, what are your thoughts here?
If I'm going to keep up with my ranking system, I'll put this, I think, about number 4, just above the first story, The Witcher. Yeah, I thought this was a good chapter, mainly because of the relationship between Geralt and Dandelion. I thought it was really enjoyable aspect of this chapter to have gone into that a bit more. The devil stuff, it's not the most original story or the most tense story or anything, and that it has like a little bit of just a little side adventure, a little side quest, but I actually like that. I thought it was a nice little breather within the overall story. So yeah, I would put this at about my number 4 out of the 6.
Cool. Stephen?
I think this is the weakest story for me, to be honest. It's funny. Like, I mean, it was a weird one because there was all this setup, right? About there's this Javel that's going about.
Javel.
He turns out to be a goat man, and he goes back to them, which was good. Was a good scene. But then they get captured by him or his mates, and like nothing really happens then, and just this some sort of witch of the fields or whatever the fuck turns up and like sorts it all out. It was like, what was the point? Why did I have to listen to that story? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't disagree that nothing happens in it, but I kind of like that relaxedness of it or something. I don't know. It's like a really cozy weird kind of fantasy story.
Yeah. I did like, obviously, Dandelion. I'm going to call him that because that is his name to me, even though it's Dandelion. I do like him in all the books that he appears in and the stories. I think he's really funny, and he's a good like side partner in crime for Geralt. He's a good like foil for him, sort of thing. So I think he adds a lot to it. But this one, it was weak for me. Also, I couldn't figure out which fairy tale it was for, or if any. I just looked it up there now, and apparently somebody's saying it's the Pied Piper, which I don't see at all. But
no, I can't see that.
If anybody knows, write in.
That's a big stretch, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a massive stretch. Like I said,
I think it's just the fairy tale of the human race and their multiple attempts at genocide. Like, it's just a classic human story. Like,
humans are the baddies, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, it didn't really have anything for me.
No, fair enough. This one is, I think, there's not a lot of action or anything like in this one. It is very dialogue based. I think I just liked it because, again, what Michael was saying in the last one, it's kind of introducing like the elves and stuff like that. So it's setting up more stuff for the future than actually happens right now. So as a standalone, maybe it's not the greatest story, but I think I just appreciate it more again because of like the games and stuff and knowing some more of the story about where it's going with it all. Cool. Jason?
But like, just to finish up, I don't want to get off the impression that I absolutely hated it. I still liked it.
Stephen, it's confirmed you hated it.
But
okay.
It was the worst of the chapter.
Stephen hates the chapter.
As much as
Johnny hates the narrator.
And
Michael hates hair.
Yeah.
Michael hates having hair.
Right? The only other thing I'll say is that Phil Evangel, bigger asshole than Strigmore.
Phil Evangel being like the leader of the elves in this situation. Cool. Okay, over to you, Jason.
I was laughing there when Stephen gave his initial opinion because once again I would wholeheartedly agree. I think this is the weakest chapter in the book. It's not like it, Stephen, is it? I do like Dandelion or Jasphere, is that his name in the book?
Yeah, Jaskier.
Jaskier, yeah. Like I thought he was the strongest part of this chapter, but the rest of it felt pretty flat for me. I'm not gonna lie. Between the Devil and the elves, didn't really find much to enjoy from this chapter apart from Dandelion. Really, jumping ahead of myself a wee bit again, but I think the book just started to sort of taper off a wee bit for me at this sort of point. We'll get more into that more in the next chapter.
Yeah, fair enough. I absolutely agree that this is, although again I really loved every chapter, this is probably the weakest for me. Again, probably just because there's not really much going on other than this like dialogue, and it is mostly more or less all dialogue in this, like apart from when they just get captured. That's the one really action part. And yeah, I agree that Dandelion's probably the best part of this, and Dandelion is such a great character, and like you said there, he's such a great offset or balance with Geralt. I actually think the TV show does this a bit better, because in the book, Geralt openly admits that he's like, you know, his friend, whereas in the TV show it's more like, you know, Jaskier's like being very annoying and Geralt's like not happy that he's there, but secretly deep down he does like him. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just, I like the way it's kind of like, it's more of a contrast in the TV show. But yeah, no, I really love the stuff when Dandelion's in there. It just brings this kind of light humour on it, because obviously Geralt's, you know, a very serious character most of the time. So yeah, he's definitely a good contrast to have there. But overall, yeah, I like the chapter. But yeah, I do agree with what Jason and Steven said. It's probably the weakest overall for me.
Which is a shame, because the episode of the show has that banger song at the end.
Oh yeah, the Toss a Coin, Dear Witcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's again one of Jaskier's.
I was singing that song flat out the month I was looking into this book.
Yeah, such a good song. To be fair, I watched the first season of the show there again, just obviously to be in line with this, and yeah, just a great, like it's like the ending scene of that, you know, the credits and all. It's just brilliant. Okay, I will move on then to the final chapter, and this is what I started introducing the last time. This is another main character that's getting introduced here. He is linked to Geralt, and this is how they meet in this chapter. So this is Yennefer of Vengerberg, you might hear always referred to as well. So she is like a powerful sorceress who's basically living in this like mansion or this town. She's like gone there to like help people, but she's kind of taken it over. So the reason Geralt and Dandelion go to see her in this town is because they are searching for a djinn. And like, so the djinn's like a genie type thing. I think it's just like a common term anyway. But basically, like, find at the bottom like a lake or something like that, and accidentally like release it while they're fighting over the actual jar that the djinn's contained in, and open it. And the djinn attacks Dandelion and like does some kind of damage to like his throat. And obviously Dandelion's like a performer and singer and stuff, so this is like his, I think it's whenever they go to see like some elven doctor, he's basically like, he might never be able to sing or talk or whatever again. So he's like very concerned about this, and he might actually die. I think he's like coughing up blood and everything. But basically, turns out then that the elf doctor can't really help Geralt, but he says that there's a sorceress in town and they should go see him, or go see. Well, I think actually it does say that it's like a him. That's, or no, actually not in the book. It is like they do know it's a girl, but I think in the show, is it? Geralt's like, take me to him, so it's like, you know, he's assuming that it's a man. So it's like, kind of, I guess they try and big up the fact that he's like so surprised by meeting this very important person coming into his life or whatever. But anyway, Geralt takes Dandelion to this sorceress Yennefer and asks for her help to cure whatever the djinn has done to Dandelion. And Yennefer, although doesn't reveal, will help Geralt, but she's actually got an ulterior motive, and she wants to try and capture the djinn. So it's probably explained better in the show that Yennefer, a part of her becoming a sorceress, she's become like barren and can't have children. Part of the actual like I think in the show it's because like she was like transformed from being like ugly or like a hunchback and they, you know, being beautiful.
Isn't it like a thing where in this series, magic, you have to like, it's like alchemy, you have to give something up to like,
yeah, exactly, yeah, that.
So I think the thing is that she gave up her like ability to have children, yeah, to gain like not be crippled anymore, basically.
Yeah, so she's obviously, she's annoyed now. She kind of would do anything at that stage because that's what she really wanted, but now she's like raging that her choice to have a child has been taken from her. So she's trying to find a way to undo it and like get her ability back. So she wants this djinn basically to capture it and become its master and get the wishes or whatever, and use its power to restore her ability to have a child. So that's her ulterior motive, but like she helps Dandelion, and gets him, fixes whatever the issue is with his throat and stuff. But then she like wants him there to like help attract the djinn to her. And then she's like intending to capture it with some mad freaking, it's almost like satanic kind of ritual magic or whatever. But it's because to do it, she needs like the last wish to be made, which is why this chapter's called The Last Wish, and the book as well. and she thinks that Dandelion has the last wish. So at this stage, I think 2 of the wishes has been made. So it actually turns out that Geralt is the one who must have had the final touch on the top when the gem was released. So he's the one that actually has the wishes. So I think he's like, you know, when he realizes her motive, he tries to get like Dandelion out of there, and she possesses Geralt or uses her magic to like make him go on and like start causing havoc in the town. So he gets like arrested, and he's in like jail, and basically he's up for like, I think, execution or whatever. But I think it does happen in the book as well, but it's good in the show where he's like, I wish you would blow up or something like that, which I think's a weird thing to say, but he says that to like the jailer, and he basically explodes because it's his wish. I'm not sure why you would say that to somebody, but there you go. But basically he uses like his wish. I'm not actually sure what his first wish was. Didn't he know
first wish?
Yeah.
Yeah, so his first wish was when he was doing the exorcism. Do you know where he's trying to get rid of the genie at the start? And he says the word. He says what he thinks is an incantation, but it's basically just like rude words.
Go away.
It's basically F off.
So that was his first wish.
And it's kind of revealed throughout the rest of the tale that he's, you know, he keeps saying it to people and they're like, "Jeez, rude."
I know. Yeah, so then a second wish is for this jailer, or the guy that's going to take him to get executed or whatever, that he basically dies, and then Geralt realizes that what Yennefer's trying to do, and even though she has like pure fucked him over here and stuff, and like got him like almost killed and stuff, again he's like, she's not the monster here or whatever, and what she's trying to do is going to kill her because Geralt has the wish, plus even if, you know, if the wishes were all made, she still wouldn't be powerful enough to capture this djinn. So he realizes this and risks his life to basically run on and save her. And the wish isn't actually revealed, but like until later. But it's basically that their destinies are tied together, and he basically saves her by that. Like, so the djinn can't like kill its master, which is Geralt. So it's like by tying their destinies together, the djinn will not kill her and basically leaves. But she like thinks that Geralt's pure like sabotaged it or whatever he's done, but he's actually saved her life. But yeah, because now this power is hanging over them, and this is a common theme in throughout the series, is it actually like they become like intimate and stuff like that? And is it actually love, or is it because of this destiny bond? And they don't actually know, and there's this thing where they can escape each other, but they also like don't know if the feelings are real or whatever. But basically, yeah, they get together at that moment, and yeah, all's well and ends well. Although I think the house gets absolutely ruined, and it's like the mayor of the town or whatever. But yeah, what did you think about this, Michael?
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna have a different opinion on other people again for this chapter, but this is actually my favorite chapter. I would put this as my number one. I went back and forth with this and the Beauty and the Beast chapter, but I think I came out on this one. What I like about this chapter, I just thought it was a lot of fun, especially in a book that's very dark and drab a lot of the time, which I do like, but I thought it was a very exciting chapter with everything that was happening. I like the genie kind of djinn folklore mythology. I like the three wishes kind of stuff, and I thought the twist of it being Geralt's wishes all along was the way it was revealed and the way it was done was very clever and very funny. I liked the back and forth with Yennefer and Geralt. I really liked having a snippet of their relationship within this. Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the story. It was very chaotic feeling, and it just, again, it brought something kind of different to the collection that felt nice.
Yeah, I think this and the Striegel one are probably my two favourites, like, maybe undecided. I agree with you. It's, yeah, kind of got like this fun feeling as well to it. I really like the kind of the thing with the djinn as well. I think that the whole thing was the djinn is, it's one of them things where, you know, you can wish for anything and it's like really powerful, but it's like, I think the djinn always tries to be like, do it like in a deceiving way. I think they mentioned this in the book where like if you wish
monkey's paw.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if you wished for like loads of money, you would get your money, but somehow it would make you unhappy or something like that, or like it would, you know, do something negative to you, even though you think it's a positive thing. But I really like that kind of idea as well. Stephen?
I think I agree with both of you, to be honest. It's not my favourite. I still think the Question of Price is my favourite, but this would probably be a close second, yeah. I pretty much agree with everything Michael said. It was just a fun adventure. There was a lot of stuff going on. It was really funny and still entertaining and, you know, dark at times too. The genie stuff, yeah, I love that's the whole like monkey paw thing. I think that's really, I just really like those sort of stories. So yeah, it was a big one for me. There was a lot of exposition in this one for Yennefer. I think she's basically set up in this chapter, and then also the voice of reason beforehand. But I think it was done between the voice of reason and this chapter were like done in a nice way to like tie them together, which I appreciated. So yeah, I liked it. It's a good one.
Yeah, cool. Jason?
Going to go against the grain a wee bit, but I think this was actually one of the weaker chapters. I still think the previous one was the weakest, but I don't know, as I sort of touched on, like I feel like the book did just sort of start to, not drag, I think that's maybe a bit strong, but I definitely felt like there was a decline in quality in these last two chapters. I mean, I knew both of the stories from the TV show, but I knew what was coming, but I don't know, I just find it a bit jarring at times of Yennefer in this last chapter. Good action set pieces, I would say. Like, I do appreciate the fighting and how things are portrayed and the action in this book, but I just felt this, I would probably put this maybe my second worst chapter, just ahead of the previous one before it. But yeah,
fair enough. I think this, if I've gathered anything from all our opinions, is that this is like the most varied we've been. Like, we've all been finding different chapters interesting or bad or whatever, or not bad, but like least interesting. Like, this has definitely sparked the most differences between us, I think.
I'd probably agree.
Usually it's like three of us, three of us like agree on something, and then there's usually just one that's like the opposite or something. But this has just been like all over the place. But I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was just thinking if Jason did rank them, my list compared to his would be completely different.
Yeah, two of your favourites or two of my least favourites.
Should we do that now and just have a think?
I have mine's ranked. Well, I don't have their names written, but I did rank them throughout the show.
Right. So, like I said, we've covered now the main like past story chapters. So throughout the book, this is like, we've mentioned this at the start, that this is like him telling these stories about his past in these present time while he's getting treated by a priestess. So each chapter has, like, before the actual story chapter is like a voice of reason chapter. So it's kind of like this, you know, frame and narrative, you know, keeps coming up and kind of like separates the chapters, which I mentioned I quite liked the structure the way it is. Like, it is kind of like, you know, sitting around a campfire telling stories kind of thing, where you have this constant, you go to a story and then you have this flash, or you go back to the campfire kind of thing. But basically, I'll just kind of summarize the voice of reason chapters, and then we can maybe discuss them as a collective, because it is like essentially all the same chronological part. So it's set at a temple in Melitele. I'm not again how you pronounce that, but I think that's what it's called. So Geralt's in there. He's recovering from his injuries after some monster hunting adventures, and he's conversing with a priestess, Nenke, I think you pronounce her name. So she's the one that's helping him out, and a lot of those conversations are between them two. And a lot of it is delving into like Geralt's philosophy and profession as a witcher, and, you know, his struggles with destiny, morality, and things like that. So that's why he's telling these stories that we've gone over. So he's kind of like, you know, why they tell, you know, he's discussing something in a hurry, then like backs it up with this story, which again, this is kind of the reason I really liked it, is like you get him saying, you know, I had this issue, and then here's the issue, and then he tells the story, and then comes back, and then here's this other issue, blah, blah. I just kind of like the way that flowed. So I think like, so during that time, basically she is trying to convince him to have this, I think it's some other girl, I can't even remember her name now. Well, basically this other character that she wants to put Geralt into a trance, because she thinks there's something wrong, maybe in more of the psychological kind of side. Obviously he's being like healed here physically, but she kind of like is detecting there's something not right with Geralt. I think it's like this relationship between them two. She's been treating his wounds for like a long time, so like she knows him quite well. but he's doesn't want to be put into this trance because the girl is clairvoyant, so like she can like see the future, and he doesn't want to like know his future. I think this again ties into like a lot of what Geralt talks. Like Geralt doesn't really want to believe in like destiny. He likes the thought of like free will and stuff like that. But it's like, if you know your future, then you know you don't have real free will now, because your future's known, and you know it's that's what's going to happen whether you want it or not. But I think then near the end, she does like end up reading him and getting and discussing the future with him. The NK is kind of sad about what she hears. We don't actually quite find out what it is, but it's obviously saying, you know, that his future is not pleasant. But yeah, like I said, I like these chapters because of the discussions. They were kind of like almost like reflect on each of the stories in turn, either like setting up the story by talking beforehand, or like after they told one of the past stories, coming back to and reflecting about it and like talking about, you know, the challenges that Geralt was going through and stuff. I just kind of liked it as a narrative. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what you thought about these and like the actual, you know, setup of the book, and how, you know, having these wee chapters and interspersed between each of the main chapters, and what like you thought about that. So we'll go to you first, Michael.
I quite like a Freeman story. We talked about that in the Name of the Wind episode, because that's something similar there as well. Forrest Gump is another popular example of a story that does that, where goes back to somebody telling a story, and it kind of has its own self-contained plot, but there's not really much of a plot in Forrest Gump's, to be honest. It's just him kind of sitting on a bench. As for what actually happens in this Freeman story, I don't think it was anything extremely engaging. But I did like the setup of it. It was an enjoyable way to position the stories and frame them.
Fair enough, Stephen.
I think it was a nice way to link them all together, rather than just having a book of 6 stories that just, you know, sort of happen. It was a nice tie-in for them all. I really like the ending. Do you know where he fights that guy? I think I would I ranked that. I've written down my ranking here, and I've put that third. The Voice of Reason as a whole third, just purely because of that end. But so yeah, it was a nice tie-in, but it also had a story of its own going on. So yeah, it's good. There's a lot of like backstory revealed throughout that too, like stuff. You hear allusions to like things that Geralt's done before, like where he's you know, spent time with Nennika and you know, Yennefer and all that. So yeah, I think it was really good.
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention about that story, which I actually quite liked about I think it was like, I'm not sure what the person was, is he like a prince or something, but I think Geralt embarrasses him at some stage. So now he wants to, like near the end of the book, then wants to basically fight Geralt. So have a public display of him beating Geralt in a fight, but Geralt's basically going to throw the fight. And like Geralt, basically the instructions directed to Geralt is you aren't allowed to like harm him.
If you touch this man, you're
you can't,
down.
you can't inflict the harm, or this other guy's gonna like basically take you out and execute you. And Geralt doesn't actually do anything to harm him. Geralt just dodges out of the way, and the boy falls and like hits his head or something like that. And the guy says, "Here, he's harmed him. Like freaking kill him." And the other guy's like, "Nope, he did this. The thing was specified was that he could not touch him. So Geralt's done nothing wrong." So I quite liked how that worked out. It was quite funny.
Yeah, I think he parries, like with his big heavy sword, he parries the other guy, and it basically, because he's like weak or whatever, the sword bounces back and hits him in the face. So he sort of does it to himself.
Yeah.
Which I really like. I like it when, like, you know, the protagonist outsmarts somebody like that. It's
good. Jason?
Yeah, I think the book is a book of 6 short stories, and then the Voice of Reason is just the sort of the way of tying them all together a wee bit, I suppose. I think it was needed. I would agree that I think the overarching sort of theme, I think, just to touch on why he was fighting that guy, am I right in saying it was because like earlier on in those chapters, whoever ruled that area like didn't want Geralt to bounce, and the neck he was like, he's my guest, he'll stay for a couple of days and then he's going to leave, and then they got pissy about it and came up to scrap him. Is that sort of what happened?
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, I think it tied in well. I did like it. I think, it was needed. You couldn't have just had 6 short stories. It would have really detracted from the whole novel, I think. The whole book.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I was blown away. I would sort of say it was okay. It was in the middle of all these. We had to rank them.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. So we'll move on now to our star ratings. So I'll maybe go last, just, because I think he's all know what I'm probably going to give it. So we'll go to you first, Michael, because this is going to be quite interesting to see how you are going to, because I kind of absolutely loved every story, whereas you were kind of, I know you didn't dislike any story, but you were kind of like meh about some of them, so it'll be very interesting to hear what you give it overall. So, Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of try and give it on the balance of the stories. For me, 2 excellent stories, and The Last Wish and The Beauty and the Beast one. 2 good stories. Trying to remember now what my ranking was. The Renfrey one and the Dandelion one are both ones that I thought were good. One okay one I thought in The Witcher, and one that I didn't like in the Courtroom one. So overall,
yeah.
So overall, I still really enjoyed this book, and on the strength, I think, of those top 2 stories, I would probably even revisit this audiobook at one stage. And also should mention again, the narrator was absolutely phenomenal, which elevates this score yet again. So I would give this a good solid 4 out of 5 stars.
Very good. Stephen?
Yeah, I'll just come out with it. I'm going to give it a 4 as well. I think it's just overall great read, and I'm definitely going to come back to it again. I want to do the full series at some point. Not right now, but at some point. So I'll probably start with this again, obviously, because it ties in perfectly. And yeah, I as we were talking about, I liked all the stories. There wasn't one that I hated or disliked. Some were just okay, but most of them were better than good. As for my ranking of them all, I would say Question of Price at the top, so the Courtroom one, then The Last Wish, so the last one, then The Witcher, which is the one with the Striga, the first one, Grain of Truth, which is Beauty and the Beast, pretty sure, then The Lesser Evil, which is the Renfrey one, and then Edge of the World, which is the one with the elves. So yeah, I liked it though. It was a great book.
Fair. Jason?
Another 4. Thought some very, very, very good stories. I would probably say that I felt there were some very weak stories, or at least one weak story. The narrator was an absolute 5 out of 5 for me. So he did elevate things. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. In regards to the rankings, like as Michael sort of said, he had his rankings ready, so me and Stephen sort of did ours and wrote them in our group chat, and we were sort of laughing. Like there's only one thing. Like he's got The Last Wish sitting in number 2, where I've got sitting in number 5, but like everything else sort of follows the same pattern. I've got the Question of Price, then The Witcher, then A Greater Truth, then A Lesser Evil, then The Last Wish, and then The Edge of the World is my sort of ranking. I didn't rank The Voice of Reason, but I'd probably just throw it in there sort of in the middle, maybe 4th on the list or so. But yeah, I had a really good time with this book. I don't ever like spending my last credit. I don't know why I only ever like spending like my second and third credits, but I almost did go and buy like the second sort of short stories, because I did go ahead and like look which way should I read these books or listen to these books, and I think it recommended like the short stories first and then kicking off with the novels. I almost went and did it, but I think one of the things that stopped me was my inability to spend my last credit. I'll maybe
to save that for the next pack.
Have to, and I'll maybe revisit it someday. I did enjoy it.
Yeah, happy enough with that. Fair enough. I probably said this a lot on this, but yeah, I absolutely love this book. It's probably the first audiobook that I struggled to like put down. Most of the audiobooks I would listen to before I went to bed and would be like, right, I'll do a wee 20 minutes here. This one was like one where I'd be like, right, I need to stop listening now. I need to go to sleep. It was like the first audiobook, I was just loved listening to. I loved all the stories. I do think the one with the Witcher, the one with the Striga, is probably my favourite. I just think just because of the darkness of it, and just I think because it was the opening one as well, and it was like such a good introduction, it just kind of really grabbed me and really resonated with me. But I absolutely loved all the chapters. I think the one with the elves, probably was the weakest, but like I said, my list would be like they would all just be sitting near the top. I completely disagree that you keep saying that I hated the narrator. I absolutely did not. I thought the narrator was very good. I just thought I said he was nothing special. I think it's only because of those few things I mentioned at the start that I didn't like about the Dandelion and the voice of Geralt. Even though now I'm listening to the second one, which I'll talk about in 2 seconds, I actually kind of like. I've kind of gotten used to at this. I remember for about half of this book just thinking every time I heard it was like, oh, that's not Geralt there. Like, it's just somebody else. Like, that's not the way Geralt sounds. But now I'm actually kind of growing to like it. So yeah, I'm going to give this book a 5 because I just absolutely loved it.
Pushing up your own scores. Classic.
Classic Johnny, yeah.
Here, Slavers, listen, nothing's going to beat The Hobbit this year anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
I know. I've got one more book.
Let's all put Jason's book of 5 just cause.
Got one more book. They
What does
not finish dead last.
What does that give the overall score?
4.25.
What you say, Michael?
4.25.
4.25. Yeah.
4.25.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm happy enough for that. Happy he's enjoyed it. Like I said, I'll talk here. I have, Jason, picked up like you said there, you were tempted to pick up. I did start it. I'm about halfway through it already, just because I was absolutely loving the first one, and it's more the same, this one as well. I think it's kind of the opening ones, like if you watch the series, that one with the dragon.
Yeah.
If you remember that from the series, I think that's like the opening story. It's again just kind of similar vibes where there's, there's no voice of reason thing. I think it is just literally like the stories. It's like chapters, but it'll be like chapter 1 and go up to like say chapter 7, and then it'll start again, be like chapter 1. Do you know what I mean? So it's more or less like wee mini books within it. But yeah, it's still kind of the same vibes or whatever. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying that still. Maybe cover that in a future time. But yeah, I'm listening to that right now. But yeah, I guess we can move on to the next section, which is comparisons to other media. So we have already brought up a few things here. Obviously, there's a lot of fairy tales being used here. We've already mentioned. Obviously, there's a lot of like Slavic, like kind of around the Polish region, folklore, things like that, which is quite interesting. I've got a couple of like trivia things about that I'll bring up in a minute in the trivia section. But yeah, like the games, of course, that we've mentioned frequently. That was my introduction into this series. I feel like a lot of people got introduced by the games. I feel like it's kind of like big, like especially the third game, because it was like game of the year and stuff like that. It was definitely what got a lot of people into this series, and then now Netflix have like adapted into the show has probably pulled in even more. So I feel like it's just blown up in the last 10 years, whereas like I think it was like the 90s this was originally written in. So yeah, well, what else do you say? And I have all other comparisons to other media from anyone.
Yeah, so I found out that there was it was a Polish film about it first, obviously using the original title, which was The Hexer. I don't know anything about it other than it exists. It was like 2001 or something. And then there was a series released after it, which is like 13 episodes, so couldn't have been too good. But it might have been hard to adapt something like that into a show in the early 2000s, I'm not sure. Or maybe it's class, and if anybody knows, right in.
Well, I said I had a few each trivia bits, so we'll go on to that section. So, like I said, this is heavily inspired by like Slavic mythology and like Eastern European folklore. So, like things like Strigas and Bruxa and all are pulled from those regional myths. So, like they are actually things that, although they don't exist, they are things that come from outside these stories. Also, the origin of the actual universe was actually a short story titled The Witcher. I think it's like, I don't even want to try the Polish pronunciation, to be honest. But he basically published it into like a Polish fantasy magazine called Fantastica, which is like Fantastyka, which I think is a great name. But yeah, it got some popularity from that, and then that's what obviously, led them writing books about it. Let's see, does anyone have anything else? I'm just kind of reading a couple more of mine.
Yeah, I have one that I got from the almighty source of Wikipedia.
Go for it.
The source of truth.
I thought this was an interesting fact, but the Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, who was the Prime Minister too during Obama's tenure, when Obama came to visit Poland, Donald Tusk actually gave him a present and a gift, and I think part of the gift was this book, a signed copy of this book, according to Wikipedia anyway, which I think's funny. I wonder what Obama thought about it, if he ever got round to reading it.
Very good. That's mental.
Big Barry.
I wonder if Obama read it and loved it, or was he just, the hell's this?
I'd say Obama would judge.
The man would read them. Ah.
Yeah, if you're listening, Obama, right on. Let us know.
What do you think Obama's favourite chapter would be?
Oh,
He strikes me as a Beauty and the Beast kind of guy.
he does, yeah. No, question of price. I reckon he's the same as me. He likes the court drama.
I'd say so. He's into his politics, like.
He loves it.
So,
And
Lawyer,
hedgehog
but-
man.
the actual Jin wish is, the wish that links Geralt and Jennifer together by fate, is not actually ever revealed by Sapkowski. Like, it is a fan theory, but I mean, it's one of them ones. It's like, you're almost absolutely certain. Like, I was going to say one of the ones from Game of Thrones, but I'm like, I don't want to be spoiling another book during this, because you're not expecting that to be spoiled unless.
It's probably one of those things. I think George Martin talked about this loads of times, where he's like, there's fan theories online that are better than what I originally thought,
Intended.
and I just stole the fan theory. And that's it.
Yeah, could be that. Like.
That is a worry though with some things. Like, I do think the internet does influence shows and books a wee bit sometimes.
Yeah, I think that kind of ruined Lost. I think they were originally just supposed to be flat out dead at the beginning, and then they pivoted because of fan theories, because people figured it out. So it has it's negatively influenced shows, I would say.
Yeah.
So, one final.
Is he still writing those books?
No, I think he's done.
Nah, they were written in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, but maybe because of
still
the.
alive?
Yeah, I wonder if he's alive.
Yes. He's 76.
My last bit of trivia is that he's actually got a degree in economics, and he began writing as a hobby later in life. So it's never too late for anyone. Like, you can 1 minute you can be doing one thing, and then you write fucking an absolute belter of a book series. Like, cool. So let's move on now to our more personal sections. In what else are we consuming? So we'll keep the same order again. Michael, what else are you consuming?
Well, you were with me, Jonathan, at this stage, so we spent a week last week in Malin, a week away, and during that week we were supposed to watch our Lord of the Rings. It's like a tradition to do this like every year. Now we haven't done it for 2 years because the DVDs did not work in the DVD player, so we were left with streaming services, and Lord of the Rings was not there. So instead we filled the gap with the Edgar Wright Cornetto trilogy. Watched Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and At World's End.
Nice.
And then because we had another day, we watched another Edgar Wright movie, which is Baby Driver. Yeah, really, really love all those movies. There was Declan's, our brother, or Jonathan and I's younger brother, first time watching all those movies. So it was cool.
It's funny. Like, I was about to, like, last night I was going to watch Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz because I saw they were on Netflix. But World's End wasn't there.
Did you ever see his one?
That's not there.
Did you ever see his newest one with Anya Taylor-Joy, what we call her? Like the horror?
Oh, yeah, the one in Soho. I saw that.
Last Night in Soho. Yeah.
Last Night in Soho. Yeah, I saw that. I enjoyed that one too. Yeah, it's very different than his usual stuff, but yeah. I really, really enjoyed that movie.
Never got round to it. I was very tempted, but
yeah, I would recommend it. It's definitely less comedic than Cornetto trilogy or Baby Driver. It's more.
Is it a horror film?
It's still a good movie. Sort of. I wouldn't really describe it as horror. I would say it's kind of more thriller-ish.
Right. Sorry, I'm getting you sidetracked. This is why our podcast takes 3 hours.
It's okay. And as you guys have referenced throughout the podcast, that I hate hair. I had long hair. I no longer have long hair. I buzz cut it down to a shorter size because it was annoying me while running. I'm still out running. I did a lot of running when we were up in Malin, like a lot of the rural Irish roads, which are very steep, and it was very sore on my legs, but I kept up with it. I've increased the weekly mileage up to 59 kilometers now, so running at a pretty good level now, I would say. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I was running out on the quay the other day, and a guy like zoomed past me like far faster than me. Then I looked at his, and it was like, give me a thumbs up, and he was like, keep it up. Then I looked at his back and it like said coach on it. And I was like, I don't know who that guy is, but I would die for him.
Sounds like a wanker. Fucking zooming past you like that.
I gotta do coach proud, you know, I gotta keep going. I've also been consuming a lot of news. I think the last month and a half or so has been an absolutely mental time for news. It's just been really a lot of stuff has happened, especially with US politics, which I absolutely love following. I just think it's an absolute circus.
It's an absolute clown show, man. I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, I'm just loving US news at the minute. It's so entertaining. I know, I'm pretty sure, like, not entertaining to American listeners who have their futures and everything hinging on this, but it's a very interesting race, I think, and I'm just fascinated at the minute. Just all the stuff that's happened since, you know, the attempted assassination and Joe Biden dropping out of the race, and now Kamala Harris stepping up. It's been a crazy time, and I think I've been saying for years, I think Trump is going to get back into office. I've kind of flipped on it now. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know, man. I think he's got it in the bag. I think Biden being put forward has sunk the Democrats.
I think, yeah, but their campaign was like heavily positioned against Biden too, and I don't think they know how to kind of battle against Harris, you know. And just finishing this off, the last things that I've been consuming too, I've read 4 books as well, in addition to The Witcher. 2 of those books were by an Irish author, A.M. Shine. 2 ones about folklore, The Watchers and The Creepers. Both these books are based on Irish folklore, and I read one of these while in rural Ireland, so it was a very creepy experience, but there's like a big twist in both these books, and it's kind of like, the twists are kind of frustrating to me, even though the book, I did enjoy the books at times. They like don't really hold up to scrutiny that much, I think, anyway. And it kind of, there's a movie for The Watchers that came out this year, and it's actually directed by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, so that would probably tell you a lot about like what kind of twist is in that. But I still found them quite enjoyable books, and I read Salem's Lot by Stephen King. And I read, I'm currently reading My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, who does like horror comedy, and I'm really enjoying that book.
Very good. Stephen?
Yeah, not a way off from me for what I'm consuming. I'm also keeping up with American politics for some reason and seeing the absolute clown fiesta that's going on. UK politics isn't much better, to be honest. That's pretty funny as well. Watching the House of Commons back on a Wednesday, which is the weirdest thing ever, but it's funny. Like, shows, for some reason I started watching Rick and Morty again. I don't know why, but I'm currently making my way through that. What else? I don't think there's a whole lot of other shows. I saw Deadpool and Wolverine. That was pretty good. Don kept messaging me, Michael. You've probably been getting the same messages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to see that. It was really good. I want to watch a film called Jerry and Marge Go Large, if anybody's seen that and can tell me if it's good. It's got Bryan Cranston and Rainn Wilson in it. Games, not really playing anything. I don't know if I've talked about finishing We'll Save the Galaxy for food, but I finished that series after Michael's suggestion, and it was great. Loved it. That's about it, really.
Very good.
I've no time anymore. I've got like work and then the child, and then I have a second child coming, so
Busy man.
Busy.
time for things. Busy boy.
Jason?
I've not been up to much.
0. Alright, see that.
Well, tell him though.
Just been laying low. No, she's mentioned the last podcast that I got married. All you lads were there. Good time.
Jesus, congratulations.
You did a speech.
You should have said something.
Told some terrible stories about me that will not be told on the podcast.
We will add
when
my rereading of the speech on the podcast at the end of this one.
We told them all last episode anyway, sure.
I listened to the episode, so shush.
Michael, you cut them out. God's sake.
So got married, went on my honeymoon. I actually managed to read some physical books myself. Got round to a modern day classic, On the Road, by Jack. I always mess up his name. Is it Jack Kerouac? Kerouac? I can never pronounce it.
Yeah.
Quite a famous novel. Quite good. Enjoyed it. Read a wee short story called Coyote, but I can't remember who the author was. I actually read that on the flight over. It was only about 90 pages long. I think I had done like an hour and a half. But that actually really messed with me. That was really good. I wish I actually had the author's name.
Is it Alan Steele?
No. Have you Googled it just, or?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think I did Google it. I think Alan Steele wrote like a series, whereas this is very much like a very short wee novel. I don't think it's the same thing. But yeah, I would, if I can ever find a name for it, I will try and plug it next episode. I don't really know what else I've been up to. I've been actually reading about a few of the boys' comics. I got like through the Humble Bundle, they were selling like all the boys' comics for like 15 quid. So I've got them all downloaded as PDFs on my phone. I mean, sort of making my way through those. I just sort of made my way through the first one. Finished it there last night. A bit mad, a bit disgusting at times. I have heard that before it started. Like it's definitely a bit more fucked up than the TV show, I think. But it's good. Good, I'm enjoying it. Hopefully get through more, but I'm actually trying to read more physical books at the minute. The book I'm currently halfway through is Bob Mortimer's book, The Satsuma Complex. It's quite funny if you know who Bob Mortimer is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've listened to that book.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through, I think, exactly. So that's just
Mike and Bob, good lads.
But apart from that, just chilling.
Fair enough. As for myself, I mentioned there I was reading the second book in The Witcher, so I'm halfway through, or listening to it, sorry. The Sword of Destiny, so listening to that. I'm still absolutely loving it, so I have a feeling that I'll probably just continue on and just may as well just read them all at this stage. But we'll see, maybe when it goes into the non-short story format, it might become maybe a bit more of a slog than, it's right now. It just feels easy because obviously the story is continuously changing. So I feel like I'm getting a fresh story every time. Yeah, I haven't done too much else. I was watching the show. I've just almost finished the first season. I just watched the ones that were relevant to this, and I'll probably just continue on. I've never seen the third season, so I'll probably try and watch that too.
Is the third season the one that doesn't have Henry Cavill on it?
No, he's still in it at the one. No, that was his last. The next one will not have him.
Right.
Liam Hemsworth, I think, is the replacement.
The ugly Hemsworth.
Yeah, like Michael said, they're on holidays there, so it didn't do too much in terms of other stuff, more stuff with the family and things like that. Yeah, not up to too much myself. I'll just keep it short and sweet. Any plugs from any of you guys? He's only Michael. I know you'll have some, so if you want to go first.
I'm writing a lot at the minute. Nothing like to come out, but there will be stuff that I will talk about maybe next episode or possibly the next episode after that. See how it works out, but just wanted to also plug our email, the Audiobook Club Podcast at gmail.com, if you want to write on for any recommendations or just say hello or say whatever you want. We will probably read it out on the podcast, whatever. It may be, even if it's something horrible. Maybe it will, not too horrible. We might keep it to ourselves then.
Oh, cool. I myself have just published my first 2 blogs, technical blogs. So they're again to do with the programming language I do, the Q programming language. So one is about memory allocation within it, how the language itself, allocates memory for all the data and data structures and variables and things that you create. So anyone that's programming that's interested in reading that, they can go. And the other one was more light-hearted one, and I actually quite like the name of it. It's called the Little Q Keywords That Could. So obviously play on the children's story, The Little Engine That Could. It's basically about the lesser known or lesser used keywords within the language. So that one's also been released on the same day, even though because it has to go through it's published through the company. It's actually on Medium, but it's for our company brand, so it has to go through checks and all that. But yeah, published those, so links will be put in the description. But yeah, that's kind of my main work at the minute. So, alright then, I think that's me done with my hosting duties. I will pass it over to Jason. Hopefully you've made your mind up, Jason, about what you want to pick, so go for it.
Hi, hello. I have been hemming and hawing about what book to pick since my last review, and I was so dead set on a book for so long, and then Johnny threw a curveball in when he picked The Witcher last time, because I just felt like I wasn't too sure then if I wanted to do it, because it is also that sort of fantasy genre as far as I'm aware, and I wasn't too sure if I wanted to actually go ahead and do it or not. But I've decided to stick with my gut. I'm just going to go for it. Before I name what the book is, I just want to say why did I pick this book? I'll be honest with you, it was $2.99 on the Audible sale, and I just thought I read the reviews and I was like, it sounds decent. Sounds something new. I've never heard of this. I've never heard of the author. Maybe I feel like he probably is someone quite famous, but I never heard of him as far as I'm aware. It's from a trilogy that is currently being written. I think the first 2 books are out. The third one due to be released soon, I believe. So the book is from an author called John Gwynne, and the book is called The Shadow of the Gods. Anyone ever heard of it? Read it, Michael?
It sounds vaguely familiar. I'm just going to look at the cover to see.
I'll try and see if I can send it in here. It's narrated by Colin Mace, by the way. Didn't say that.
I think I do have the book, but I don't think I've listened to it yet.
There you go. That's 2 of us in.
Yeah.
So
Never heard of it.
there's the cover.
Right. I would like to go first.
Are we guessing?
Here we go. Yeah, let's go.
Right. I mean, I've also not read the book, but I have read the blurb, so I'm not going to guess. I don't think it's fair.
If you're picking the book, you can't guess. Like, Jason, that's not how it works.
Well, you haven't guessed the next anyways. For fuck's sake.
Right. Listen, here comes the guess.
This game we play every week, it's sacred.
Every week. Right. Johnny, what's your
We do
guess?
an episode every week.
I'm going to say it's about a wee tiny man. So let's first, right, I'll describe what the cover is. The cover is either an absolute tiny man against a normal sized dragon, or it's an absolute massive dragon about to breathe fire on a little tiny man. And the little man's got like a shield and a sword, which doesn't look like it's going to do him too much good. And it's really just like a silhouette of a man. You can't really see many of the details about the man, but the dragon itself is quite detailed. So I'm going to go, because you have mentioned that it is similar to The Witcher, I'm assuming this is like some kind of man hired by...
I'm just saying it's similar to The Witcher purely because I believe it's in the fantasy genre. That's the only thing I think it has in common, or at least as far as I'm aware. That's the only thing. It was just more the actual fantasy drama genre that I was comparing it to.
Because I like my idea anyway, so I'll just go with it. So it is about a man that is hired by, say, like a king, or, you know, on behalf of a king or whatever, that a dragon is terrorizing their village or area, and he is hired to slay the dragon, and it is about his quest. And he may or may not be accompanied by a donkey, who knows?
See what you're doing there.
So
Shrek.
that's kind of me in a nutshell. So
Grant, so Johnny thinks it's Shrek.
The tiny man got me, hey.
Alright. Who would like to guess next?
I'll go. So, I mean, there's not much from the cover, and Johnny's already said a tiny wee man, so I can't say that again. I'm going to just throw it out there that this world, like, the gods are gone or something, and all these monsters are there in their place or something like that, and this wee tiny man has to rise up to fight the monsters for some reason. Or maybe like there's gods in the world and they become gods by killing dragons and say that.
Right, that's
more like that. Would you be against? Could I just add to mine if that's all right? Or am I?
No,
too late.
No.
Too late.
No, you're locked in. You're locked in.
Sorry, Johnny, you had your chance.
Right.
I don't have my chance. That's all right. To be honest, I don't really consider the title at all.
Excuse me. The rules of this guessing game are sacred and very well established, and we never deviate from them. So,
fair enough.
Every 4 months when we do this game, we never deviate.
It's a tradition. So, this world is like it's under another world, the way our world was perceived to be under, like Mount Olympus. I'm gonna guess that, different from Stephen, that these monsters are not like in place of the gods or whatever. These monsters are the gods. They're like huge, massive creatures that reign over people. And in our world, how we are basically top of the food chain in this fantasy world, people are prey, and these are like predators or big, massive, like, I don't know, people who rule the land, and the people are going to rise up and kill some dragons.
I didn't hear you say there, Michael. Is there a wee tiny man?
There's
What
a
about the
man
man?
who looks tiny. He's by scale, he is tiny because this is such an eldritch, massive monster of a god.
Thank you for your wonderful guesses. I can't wait to find out who was closest. I think it'll be the person that guessed this was Tiny Man.
If there's a tiny man, like if the main character is tiny, I'm gonna. Oh, I'll be the end of me.
Looking at the older books, so there's actually 3 at the minute, Jason.
That's a
The
trilogy.
second one's called The Hunger of the God. I thought you said only 2 of them were right, but...
Ah, 'cause the
looks like
third
3
one's
of them's
not out yet, though.
Oh, yeah, see, that's pre-order. Anyway,
It's like my birthday.
so the
Actually.
second one's The Hunger, but its picture is like a wolf, massive wolf, and tiny people, so I'm assuming what Michael said is close to the money. But obviously we didn't have that information at the time, but that's all I'm saying.
Don't know why it just came into my head, but just one thing I did want to actually talk about in the podcast was something we joked about before about the loser of the year buying the winner, the book. I sort of went ahead and just did that, considering my 2 terrible books this year. No, I had to buy Johnny a wee present for being my best man. So I got him a nice hardcover of The Hobbit. I think it's illustrated.
He did.
Have you had a wee look at it yet? Johnny? Have you looked at
How
the
do we
pretty-
look at all
pretty pictures, though?
I'm going to probably read it around Christmas time. It just feels like the right time to do that.
Yeah.
It's fair. That was just.
But it's very
just
nice.
It
kinda
makes you
headed.
feel
Very nice. It looks very nice
If it
on the
makes you
shelf.
feel better, Jason, you're probably going to win the download competition if that was a thing, because Calypso is an absolute machine for getting downloads.
Really?
It is probably going to be our most popular non-Harry Potter episode eventually,
Go ahead.
which I found extremely surprising, but yeah.
That was a good book.
I don't think
Well,
he's
I
rated it
enjoyed
that
it,
high.
Yeah, but
I think
In
we
fact,
did.
I think Stephen gave it like a 3 or something. No,
3's not a low score. Let's not have this.
Hello.
This was an argument you guys had during the episode.
Hello.
I still remember, right?
Okay.
So just to clear up the facts of the episodes, Jonathan hated the narrator. Michael's bald. Stephen thinks 3 is a good score.
And also, I hate Stephen King.
He hit Stephen King. He did give it a 3 and all too.
How you give Stephen King higher than a 3? Or no, what you give him like a 2.5? If 3 is a good score, then 2.5 is a decent score. Stephen loves Stephen King. Confirmed.
Confirmed. I know, Stephen, your scores are all over the show here.
They're not like.
Right, my battery's low in my headphones, so
Right, or why Johnny's kicking us off. So
I hate podcasting. So Jason, give us it one more time, sure, and then we'll see you there.
one more time. Right, so the book I've chosen is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne and narrated by Colin somebody or other.
Leave it there. Don't
That
touch
does.
it.
Colin Mace.
Colin Mace, right? Colin Mace. So I find out what we get up to with The Shadow of the Gods in the brand spanking next episode of the Audiobook Club podcast.
And whatever Jason thinks is a bad score, that's what I'm giving it.
And I can't wait for us to be a solid 2.5.
Flip side.
Bad score.
Get the bets in. This is going to be better or worse than Ready Player One.
Oh god, no way.
Right. Seas on the flop.